I'm Bryan Kramer, the author of Shareology and Human to Human H2H. And the worst advice I ever got was you'll never make more than $40,000 a year. Who says that? We will
40
pause
grand a
there.
year?
Yeah, 40 grand a year.
Who said that to you, Brian? Have you beaten them up to a pulp, or is success speaking for yourself?
I'm going to go with success is speaking for itself.
Yeah? And who said that? Was it like a guidance counselor, or a parental figure? I mean, you don't have to call them up by name, but like, what was their role in your life, man?
It's going to be somebody in a family membership.
Ouch. That
Yeah.
sucks, man. That
Yeah.
sucks. So I'm curious, like, how old were you when that happened to you?
That would have been 21. That was actually my 20, yeah, right around my 21st birthday, within the week's time frame.
Wow.
Yeah. But you know what?
Wow.
I let that kind of stuff push me. And I thought to myself, oh yeah? You want to see?
Yeah, that's great, man. That's good, right? So sometimes bad advice, bad people, bad thoughts, right, can fuel us, and sometimes they destroy us. I'm fortunate that I had someone, my guidance counselor, said to me that I should never take hard math because I'd always just end up working at the gas station anyway. And so, so much like you, right, I was like, I had a choice. It could destroy me, and I could work at the gas station, or it could fuel me and I could be where I am today. And so what snapped in your head, Brian, when you heard that? Like, were you right away like, F you, I'm going to show you, or what was going through your head, man? Cuz that's really tough stuff to hear at such a young age.
Well, I mean, this is not, so first and foremost, that was a lot of money back then. So I lived at a time when that was
Still, yeah.
when you look at it, teachers didn't make as much money as that. And, there were a lot of people out there not making as much money as that. So take into consideration that back when I was 21, not that I'm 80 years old at all, but it wasn't it wasn't like also like 10 years ago either. So, so at that time, it was still considered to be a lot of money. Now, to me, I was like, one day I'm going to own a business. I'm going to own an empire. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I knew that from the get-go. So to me, it was like, what are you talking about? That's like table stakes. But here's the thing, like now where I stand today is a totally different human being who doesn't believe that money is like what we actually need. I mean, it's not the thing. That's not where I'm at anymore. So that is the me that defined money as the useful tool that I wanted to achieve versus the tool that I needed to use to achieve what I really want. And that's the difference of who I was and who I am.
Okay. So when did that change, Brian? Like, what changed you? What turned you into the Bryan Kramer that we know and love now, who is like Mr. Humanity?
Oh man, I'll tell you exactly the moment. I'll pinpoint it right down to the second and the day and the moment that it actually happened. Was when I was actually, you would think I was on top of my game. And it was a time when I was riding high and doing my best. And we had to have an agency. We had 3 companies, and everything was going extremely well. We were making more money than we were making a lot of money at the time. And we were a $30 million agency. We had 30 employees. I was traveling 200 days a year. I was speaking. The problem was, Phil, I came home one day in between flights after, lots of speaking. And my 11-year-old son sat me down and he said, Dad, he grabbed me by the hand and he took me up to his bedroom, sat me down. I'm like, oh my God, what is going on? He said, you're fat. You have diabetes, which he knew I did. I just got, the whole family did. And he said, and I don't think you're going to meet your grandchildren. And you're not going to live very long at this rate. And you're missing all my baseball games and my sister's games and all this stuff. And I started to realize that he was right. And I was in tears on the plane the next day realizing what am I doing all this for? And I'm hustling and I'm burning out and I'm not unhealthy. And I had to change. I had to change everything. So I came home from that. I looked at Courtney, my wife. I said, everything has to change except for you and our family. And she looked at me and she goes, whatever it takes, let's do it. And so we did. We restructured everything. We unhustled. I unhustled. I stopped almost everything over 6 months. It took 6 months of transition. Exited everything, and I live my life my way. We worked on the business, not in the business. I didn't travel anymore. I never missed a game again, and that day changed my life. I don't work for money. I work for joy and love and all the things that we talk about all the time. But I really do live for it. And I lost 85 pounds. I ended up losing diabetes, and I lived my life my way.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So to listen to your 11-year-old say that to their dad, that's got to be sobering, man. That's got to be like, wow. But at the same time, I mean, was there any part of you that said like, kid, like you're 11, like I'm working so you have a better life than I did? Was there any part of that, Bryan?
That's who Henry is. Unfortunately or unfortunately, he says stuff that's truth. Kids say stuff that's truth. He taps in a little more. Maybe I'm biased because he's my son, but he just has a knack for that, to say his truth, and it comes from a place of he's just a heart-led leader, and so he said it, and wherever he channeled it, I'm very grateful, and I tell him that all the time. I've said that not only in front of him when I've told this story in front of him to others, and he's heard me say it. Unfortunately, he doesn't remember saying that to me because he was so much younger. That he's 17 now, but he's heard me say it, and I've told him that he saved my life. He helped me make the U-turn that I wish others had, and now that's what I do. I help people, be working on their business so they can get out and have a vacation, not check their email, and run a business that doesn't run them. That's the way life should be. So back to square one, that's the difference of why money shouldn't run your life,
Yeah, for sure. So we want to talk today about, being human though. And that's a pretty human story, Bryan. That's a pretty big deal. And I would, let's say traditionally, the world does not, they doesn't always value the humanity of us guys, right? Sometimes the fact that we're men, we have to be strong. And I'm using strong in air quotes as something that, I mean, yes, we're strong, but it's an and we're human. So how, so as you felt that, I mean, that is a punch right in the heart. How did that, I guess, how did that manifest for you, man, as humanity, right? As somebody that's willing to share that story and being, instead of just, well, here's some great marketing advice. Because when I first met you, I would say, Shareology was your book. And that was where I got to know Bryan Kramer, right? And it's been, 8-10 years now that I've gotten to know your work. And it's certainly, I remember that U-turn. I remember that change in you. But before that, I mean, how did, because you'd written H2H as well, man. I mean, that was still there, right? That was still there. So what changed from that kind of H2H to really, I mean, I would argue maybe straight on humanity, not even human to human, but like straight up, here's a big cup of humanity, take it or leave it.
Right. Yeah. What changed is I believe that well, my impact on the world changed. What I believe my impact on the world changed. My original impact of what I wanted was to stand out and in a sea of noise, and that was not the impact that I really wanted. I had to redefine the impact that I really wanted. And I believe that when people redefine their impact, it has a soul-driven change within themselves. And so my my new impact, which has now been my impact for gosh, now five or so years, and it helped me to guide the way into losing whatever the weight, reestablishing my businesses, my way, and helping me to lean into the new, I think, way of working, a healthier way of working is that being human is everyone's competitive advantage. And when you're more human, it actually enhances your business and it stands out in every possible way. When you are that way, it can have profound effects on in marketing, in sales, in the same ways I was still talking about. It's just that the impact I want for the world has changed, and for ourselves individually. So when I'm being human, I feel like that's the impact that I want to serve, and it connects with me, and hopefully it connects with the others that I want to connect with. And if it doesn't, then we don't have an alignment in our impact, and that's just okay.
Okay, so align. Okay, so I'm tracking now. So let's talk about that, Brian. Like how does that show up? Like, give me an example of how being human is. It actually shows up. Like how this sounds schlocky, but like, how do you be human? Like, how does that happen? Because that sounds so like esoteric and out
Totally.
there. But
Yeah.
give me an example, right? How does Bryan Kramer show up as human?
Okay, so let's talk about this in a sales perspective. Not a well, I guess we could talk about it in a Bryan Kramer perspective, but we could also talk about let's take this as an exercise of sales, which I believe and I think everybody's heard this before. It's you can sell someone what they'll see that coming a mile away, and I don't think that that's what anybody wants to be is sold. I think everybody needs to be wants to be listened to and heard on whatever it is that is going on in their life. And having been now through coach training and in through more leadership, and having had happen what happened to me, when you are going through a level of listening, and there are 3 levels of listening. You can change the way that people actually interact and connect. And I'm going to get to more hard stuff in a second. But the first level of listening is where you're listening and you're not listening. You're totally not listening. You're thinking about other things. That's level 1. You're off doing something else in your mind, and that's just not listening. Level 2 is, and I think we're doing that all the time because we're all like multitasking. Oh my God, ADHD. I got to move on to the next thing. I got to do this. Oh my God, I got to be here at 1. And the other person's talking while you're like ADHD, and it's no listening whatsoever. And that's unfortunate because the other person's like, I don't see any connection here. Level 2 is I'm listening, but you're thinking about what you want to say next. And the other person senses that in the energy, because it's like, well, I can see that they're waiting to talk and I'm not being heard. And that's not helping the conversation. And level 3 in this how to be human is they're listening and they have no intent on talking. They're just present. And this is the way that I think people can be more present with each other, is just having no intent. Now, are we going to be there all the time? No, it's not possible. So if we could stay in between 2 and 3, that's probably the best way we can be with each other. And don't worry, if you're trying to be in a level 2 and 3 while I'm actually giving the exercise, which most people are, it's okay. We can bounce between whatever. It's not good if we're both in level 3, because we'll both be not talking, and that's no good for anyone. That's just part of what I'm saying right now in how we can be in life, not in this conversation right here, because we're on a podcast. And so when we approach it from a coach's perspective in sales, that means that we're actually helping to drive powerful questions, to listen to someone and spend more time with them than you would usually spend. Like in a sales perspective, you would do a quick 30 minutes. How do I get to know you? What do you need? What's your future? How are you going to drive more product? What's the lack of thing that you're needing? Why is the price down? What is it that you're How come you're not selling as much? What do you need? What do you need to sell more? Like, these are the common questions that you would ask, the basic questions. But what if you were to say, how can you show up more powerfully? What's holding you back? What are the things that are making you unstoppable? Like, more powerful questions that can help. I can help to drive into you, Phil. And Phil, what makes you unstoppable?
Are you asking genuinely, or are you asking
Yeah, like,
because
I'm
that's
just
a
gonna
question?
put you on
So,
the spot. Like, what does make you
yeah,
unstoppable?
boy. Well, I to your point, I do my best to listen and be really present with people. I think that certainly is one of my kind of superpowers, if you will. And then my ability to summarize and to make things that are complex very simple, and
Yeah,
to really connect, right? To really connect with people and to be available. That's one of the reasons why I really like podcasting, is because I can ask these questions. Honestly, like Bryan, I don't have notes, right? Like, not that I'm not prepared. Of course I'm prepared, but my goal is to really be here with you and to really go deep and ask these questions. And for you to really, you're my audience, right? Like, you're the one that I'm talking to. And I think that whenever I'm on a call, as a sales guy, right, that I think that does make me different. At least I try to make me
yeah.
different, right? I'm not perfect at it, but certainly that's my intent.
And so that's your version of being unstoppable, is being present with the other person, which is great. There's no wrong answer. And so we just had an interaction, I think, that was very present and very,
Yeah.
wonderful. And if we could have 90 minutes of that where I'm helping you to dig deeper and deeper with more powerful questions, and then all of a sudden we're like really solving for something rather than selling for something. That's the difference. That's how you're connecting in a more human way. And at the end, now, what's one, two, or three things that you got out of this? What's just one thing in that one moment that you felt just now, Phil?
Well, I felt heard. I think that's a
Yeah.
big one. Like, you listened to me and you didn't have an agenda, right? So I felt like, you're, I guess, present again, right? So heard is really important. And to your point, right, going back, I think that is often the miss, is we don't listen and we don't really hear, right? It pops us in this ear and it goes out of that one. And it's like, okay, I got 6 more questions to get through, Bryan, and we got 17 minutes, and let's go, right? Like, giddy up, baby. Let's go.
Right? Thank you. So now you're level 3 listening. You took that one thing away, and what's one small action that you can take moving forward? I'm not going to put you through that. And so now we've just gained such a great deep connection in that. And you and I feel like we just made a great connection too, by the way. Actually, I'm not just saying that. I feel like we actually just did.
Yeah.
And so now the last thing I'm going to say is that there's this 10-70-10 that I talk about. The 10-70-10 is not 30 minute simple in and out procedure, is what I call salespeople. Like, I get in, I sell, I get out. It's 10-70-10. It's 90 minutes of time, the most time that you can ever spend with somebody. You're 10 minutes in where you're chit chatting and talking. And then what's the 1, 2, or 3 things you want to take out of this time together? The 70 minutes is where you're actually diving in and actually helping. You don't have to be a coach to do this stuff, by the way. You don't have to go to coach training. You just ask powerful questions like what Phil and I just did. And you're diving into those 1, 2, or 3 things that you're supporting them on. And what is it that you're really good at? You have skills that you're really good at something. It could be marketing. It could be, engineering. It could be whatever it is that you're doing, but help them on that thing that you're really good at. And then dive in with those powerful questions. Once you've established those 1, 2, or 3 things, then move that conversation in those 70 minutes along the way to helping on those 1, 2, or 3 things. Now, all you're doing is giving and helping and serving and listening in your level 3. And in the last 10 minutes, reserve the last 10 minutes. That's the 10-70-10. The last 10 minutes is helping them to establish what they learned. I asked Phil what's one thing he took away. Now you're just asking them what's 1, 2, or 3 things they took away, because they just established the 2 or 3 things. That is the most powerful human behavior that you can have in the sales mode, but not a sales mode, a coaching thinking or a leadership thinking, a way of talking to someone. And that, my friend Phil, is how you be more human, not to actually establish a way of sales, or you can do this in operations, you can do this in HR, you can do this in any piece of your organization. I just use sales as a demonstration.
Right. No, that makes sense. And I think sometimes to your point, we have this checklist of things we have to get through. I call it check the box, right? So, okay, yep, built rapport. Okay, check, did that. Okay. Asked a open-ended question. Okay, check, did that one. Okay, did discovery, right? I got 5 to 10 questions. I'm going to act like I'm really scripted here. So here we go. Okay, Bryan, there. Oh, good. Okay, we got through 5 and we're at 23 minutes past. Great. And Bryan, what do you think the next step should be? And we're done, right? We're in and out and we're very transactional. And I've seen that, right? I see that, but I think, the big word that I hear that you said at the beginning is important to bring back to here is it's not sales, it's service. You want to be of service to people. And I think that's a big difference, right? Even mentally, if we think about if our goal is to be of service, we can be more human. We're able to be present for those people. But if all we're trying to do is check the box, sometimes the sale happens, sometimes it doesn't, but there's no real deep connection. And we're then not the competitive advantage. Is that? Am I tracking with you, Bryan? Am I right on here, or did I take your words and totally fumble them around?
No, you're doing a great job. You're doing a great job. I think that it's absolutely right, and not to lose yourself in the process of that, because as you're going through the process, you're going to want to lean in and start to lose yourself in the service. You're like, oh my God, I'm antsy. Like, oh wait, they just said something that I know I can sell them something, like right there. Oh my God, I got it. Like, you just said that. And you're like, no, keep serving. Give. And then maybe get, but if even not, then give. And that's the way to do it, because at that point, you're just going to deepen the relationship. Also, go slow to go fast. This is not, there's no, when I was 15, I was in driver's ed, and we were all in driver's ed at one point in our life. And I was a speed racer. And my driver's ed teacher had the brake pedal on the side of the car, and he would push it all the time because I sped everywhere. And I just couldn't help myself, because I'm like, I get this driving thing. This is easy. I know how to do it. You turn the wheel, you push the gas, you push the brake, you turn the blinkers. It's like easy. I got this. You can't teach me anything else. And I know how to go fast. I can stop. I can brake when I want to. And finally he hits the brake and says, pull over. And I'm like, uh-oh. And he pulls over, and he's this kind of short guy. And he just looks at me and he says, why are you speeding? And I said, well, I don't know. It's just, I have a heavy foot. I don't know. And he says, the class is still half hour no matter what. And I'm like, huh. And so I've always told my kids growing up, class still half hour. And I'm like, huh, why are we all in such a rush with the deadlines that we make up for ourselves, and the selling that we do, and the the dates that we make up in ourselves? Class is still a half an hour. Most of the things that we throw out there are dates for ourselves. And so we're burning ourselves out with this. And I think we can take a step back most of the time, unless there's an operating table waiting for us, or death. Class is still half hour. And so I'm asking you to take a step back and not speed so much, and take your foot off the pedal and just live into it. Because I promise you that most of the time you're going to enjoy it more. The conversation will be better. You'll deepen the conversation that much more.
Wow. So I get that, and I love that, and I think it's super great. But how do we get people to take 90 minutes for us? I mean, most people, I had one yesterday, Bryan. I scheduled 45 minutes. I can tell you that at like 31 past, they're like, okay, we got to go. And we ended at 35, and I gave them 10 minutes back. And they're like, oh my gosh, like that's the greatest gift I could have given them. is I give them 10 minutes back. But you're saying to try to get 90.
Yeah.
How do we do that, right? How do we earn that without saying, Bryan, you got to trust me, man. I know you don't know me, but we got to spend 90 minutes together, and we're going to do this in 90 minutes when, unfortunately, in reality, a lot of people barely have 30. So how do we
Right.
do that? How do we earn that? How do we get to the 90?
Right. Yeah, that's a good question. Well, there's two ways to do it. The first way is what you have. The one thing that we're all thinking is that no one has time, and that's the problem. Is see they have their foot on the gas pedal too, and they have plenty of time. Most people really do. They're also in that same car with my driver's ed teacher, and they're just moving to the next thing and the next thing, and we're all thinking that time is the same way that I thought it was. Number two is that we have to get them to pull over and see what we're seeing. So see what I'm saying? Like they need to pull over and see why they're in a rush, and that this is a problem, and we can help them. And you got to help them see that. Like, do you see that? And that's part of our role, is to help mentor or coach them into that this isn't the life that you want to live if you're having to constantly rush and put your foot on the pedal and be going from place to place to place without the results that you want. And if that's what you're going to want, then I can help you. But can we spend some quality time where I can actually help you see how to not have that speed in your life, where we can actually take some good time? Because I can't do that in 30 minutes. But if you give me 90 minutes, I can help you in so many ways, but it won't be a sale. I'm not going to sell you, and I'm not going to offer you anything. You'll have to ask me, and I'm not going to ask you. But what I will do is I'll pour my heart and soul into you, and you'll walk out of there with at least 3 things that you can do that will make it so that your life will ease up a little bit and you'll have more time back in your life.
Wow. So, okay. So, Bryan, as we kind of wrap here, I want more time, right? I think we all want more time. We all want to feel more ease. How do we get started, man? How do we get started on this journey to less check the box
Yeah.
and more 10, 70, 90 times that we have that are more enjoyable, that are happier, and that are more service? How do we get started, man?
Well, the first thing is mindset. I know it sounds so kooky and so strange, and I'm not talking about, I mean, you can meditate, but that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is taking a step back and building the frame of your house. What we most of the time do is we get into business, we get really good at one thing, and then we go sell that thing. And now we're on a path of selling that thing, and then it all of a sudden becomes we got so wrapped up in that thing that it starts to take over our life. And now all of a sudden we're not taking vacations the way we want to, or as many vacations as we want to. And we're so focused on the vacation and checking our email, and our spouse or our family are like, why are you checking your email all the time? It's because we didn't put in systems and processes and things to enable ourselves to enjoy the vacation. And so now all of a sudden we're stuck because we never built the framework to help us enjoy life. And so we have to take a step back to answer your question. We got to take a step back and actually build the framework. Like, we have to take the house. It's almost like we moved the furniture into the house before we did the framing. And so we got to go back to the house and actually do the framing. And that starts with mindset. And the mindset has to be built around what's missing from the house that we forgot to build, because we're so good at that one thing, but we didn't look at the other pieces at the business, or at what's missing in our lives that we set up, but we never really put into place. The other and that could be a slew of things. It could be operations, it could be marketing, it could be HR, it could be all the minutia of all that stuff. And then from there, it could be, what is your impact? What is your messaging? What is your, and it's not operations and structure yet. It's all the things that help you to really understand who you are and what it is that you want to be in this world before you go and do all those things. That's where you start.
Wow. That's a lot to chew on, Brian, and a lot to think about on that, right? If we can think about what our impact, what we want it to be, think about our messaging, ask ourselves who we are and who we want to be in this world. That's a 90-minute conversation or more. We probably have to have it with ourselves, right? We have to really get clear on that. And certainly a coach like you is absolutely gonna help that. That totally makes sense, right? You give them the space to be there. Wow. So that's a lot, man, in a good way. So I appreciate that a lot. And that just makes me think a lot. So with that, Brian, I know you've got a podcast and a newsletter. So talk to me a little bit about your podcast, because I know it helps have conversations about some of this stuff. So talk to us about your podcast a little bit, please.
My podcast is Humanly Possible, which you're going to be on. And it's about small and big shifts that make differences in other people in our lives. I told you about that story about Henry, my son, and how he made the difference when he called me up to his room, and how that one shift and that one conversation that we had made a difference in my life. And so we all have that. I think we all can make those too. And they don't have to be big. They can be small shifts. For instance, when I lost 85 pounds, I had lost weight all my whole life and gained it back. I had an issue with weight. I still think I do. I kept it off this time, but it was all one bite at a time and mindset. As much as everyone says, oh, whatever. But I think that, it was also putting in the right team around me, not listening to Facebook people. That's another conversation. So, so I think 1 degree shifts, little shifts can make a big difference. A lot. Like for instance, when, a carrier, an aircraft carrier still has a compass on it, and that compass still has to be recalibrated, every year, once a year by a specialized compass, engineer. And they're those big round compasses you see in the movies, and, they spin, and it's a magnetic compass. You think with all our technology, they wouldn't have to do it once a year, but every year, if they didn't do that, it'd be off by 1 degree, which is 277 miles that a ship would be off, which is a lot of ground that a ship would be off if they didn't recalibrate a compass. Think about that 1 degree shift and what that would mean to you if you just did a 1 degree shift, a little shift in your life, and what a 1 degree shift would mean 5 years from now, and what that one thing could mean. And so that's what the podcast is about. I interview people about what is 1 degree that made a difference in your life, both intentionally and unintentionally, and then what is 1 degree that you want to make moving forward. Because we focus on so many big shifts and things that we have to do in our life. And I don't think it has to be that way. I think we can be a little more intentional and easier on ourselves.
Yeah. Wow. 1 degree difference. The podcast is Humanly Possible. Bryan, you are a gift, man. If folks want to connect with you, bryankramer.com is the place to go. But Bryan, if you had one favorite social channel that you'd like people to find you on and maybe connect with you and get more of your work, where would that be, man?
Oh, my favorite channel. I'd say I hang out in equal amounts on Instagram. That's at Bryan Kramer 1, and LinkedIn. And that's also / I think it's Bryan J. Kramer. And then actually, if you go to H2H growth.com, we have a free video there that you can get on the 3 shifts that will help you to work on your business, not in your business. And you can even schedule a free strategy meeting with me if you want.
There you go. Cool. So, folks, if you're listening and you're like, holy crap, I need to get more Bryan Kramer in my life, in my work, in the things I do, go to h2hgrowth.com. Check out Bryan's video. Schedule time with Bryan. Bryan, you really are a gift, my friend, and I really appreciate all that you shared today. You made me think a lot about building my framework and think about impact and what I really want to be in this world, and reminded me that class is still just half an hour. We have that time, and I appreciate you so much, buddy. Thanks, Bryan.
Cheers, my friend.
Cheers.